Love it. All right, moving on to the NBA now. So a new story out in Sports Illustrated shedding some light on the relationship between Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons and how it really deteriorated. So Embiid's frustration with Simmons reportedly reaching a point where the big man said, quote, "There were so many times that I thought I'd really lose it." Now Simmons is in Brooklyn, sort of, and Embiid has stayed dominating like he has all season. So Broussard, when you fill out your MVP ballot, you have one. Should Ben Simmons' absence be a part of Embiid's case for MVP?
Absolutely, Jenna. First of all, on the court, it's a great impact on the court. And supporting cast, who a guy plays with, what type of and caliber of players are helping him lead his team to a great record is always a part of the conversation. I mean, Derrick Rose, when he won the MVP in 2011, it was largely because without another perennial all-star teammate, he led the Bulls to the best record in the league, even though in Miami they had a big three, in Boston they had a big three, so on and so forth. So if Kevin Durant were to play virtually an entire season, say give him 15 games, because that's what Harden has played in Philly, 15, 20 games, with Kyrie Irving or James Harden out for all but those 15 or 20 games, and they had one of the best records in the league, then Kevin Durant would be right there in the MVP race. So it is a factor on the court. I don't know if anybody disagrees with that. Off the court is the question. And the issue is because of the unique situation that Ben Simmons put them in, and it was a negative situation, that could have impacted the play on the court. All right, a lot of the Sixers are young and impressionable, and they could have easily been gotten into a woe is we mentality when their second best player spurns them. He's actually in the facility but won't talk with them, won't interact with them, isn't returning their calls all summer, things like that, doesn't even want to sit down and talk about, can we reconcile? They could have easily went into a mental and emotional funk, and he made sure that they didn't do that. So I do think that's a factor because, Wiles, it affected the play on the court. If it didn't affect the play on the court, then it's just something you got to deal with away from the game. No issue, no big deal. But it could have affected things on the court. That's why I weigh it into my decision.
I think it's totally fair, and I also totally reject it. I just don't believe that degree of difficulty should rob Giannis of a shot at the MVP. And Broussard, if you were going up for a sports Emmy, but, every morning Dan Patrick burned the roof of his mouth because he ate pizza last night, and people are like, you know what? It should be Dan Patrick. He burns the roof of his mouth because he was eating pizza. They're like, no, that has nothing to do with it. Just because Broussard doesn't burn the roof of his mouth doesn't mean he doesn't deserve a shot at a sports Emmy. Giannis's team has the better record. They're virtually tied with points and rebounds, but Giannis could take over both statistical categories. And I don't think, Nick, that just because Giannis hasn't had to deal with any drama, because he never let any fires kind of blow up on his watch, that he should be kind of put in the back seat of the MVP conversation.
No.
It's the same thing that's happening with Luka and same thing that's happening with Joker. Oh, Jamal Murray is out. Look at what Joker's doing. All right, so what? Giannis needs to be penalized because Chris Middleton is healthy? Oh, Luka, look what he's doing with no help. Why? Because he couldn't utilize Porzingis, who had like 30 points last night, so he gets credit for that? I think it's patently unfair to Giannis because he's got a steady ship and the Bucks' leadership has been steady and everything's working. It's like, well, you know what? Things are going too well for you. Even though you're obviously the best player in the league, you don't deserve MVP because it's degree of difficulty.
No. Listen, I think you're looking at this slightly wrong, and then I also think I can pull you over to Broussard and my side with something else entirely. But the reason you're looking at it slightly wrong is that if everything has been going swimmingly outside of your star player for one franchise, and everything's been a total mess outside of your star player for another franchise, it doesn't disqualify guy from franchise A. Franchise A just better be, a 65-win team or something if you're going to say, no doubt it's got to be him. Now, I made the case yesterday. I think it's Giannis. I do think it's Giannis, but I think there's a case for Embiid. So Wildes, having a great situation does not disqualify you, in my opinion, unless there's a real question of who is the best guy on a team. Steph and KD, they were almost disqualified because we really didn't know who the best player on the team was. The MVP, we got to know who they are. But the records are so similar, the production as a team is so similar that you, of course, have to factor it in. And I would say one of the reasons Giannis won the 2 MVPs he did was because he was doing it without another star. Chris Middleton's a nice player who we now respect more than we did then, and they didn't have Drew Holiday. But Wildes, here's the point no one's bringing up when it comes to Embiid. And again, I have Embiid third, but it's a close third. But this is the case I would be making in the shadows if I were wanting Embiid to win it. Okay? Embiid's patience and trust of Daryl and the front office ended up paying massive dividends. Nobody has discussed that it would have been totally reasonable, and a lot of stars would have done it, Wildes, 3 weeks into the year for Embiid at a press conference, the moment they hit a rough patch, say, you know what, Ben's clearly not coming back. He says he's not going to play here. We need something in his place as soon as possible. And had they done that, they wouldn't have James Harden. And for all the flaws Harden has and the issues we've talked about, he is certainly better than what they were going to get from Sacramento or San Antonio or whatever deal. If Embiid had forced Daryl's hand, we have seen Daryl in the past. He wouldn't tell you this, but I believe had his hand forced to trade Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook. Because Daryl understands none of it works if your superstar is not all in. And so if Embiid had done that, the Sixers are drawing dead to win the title this year. He was patient. He trusted the organization. I think that actually should be a larger part of his case than anyone is advocating for it to be.
I think that is very fair. And Broussard, you're a student of the game. And we a lot of times talk about LeBron. Got to appreciate LeBron. We're in the twilight of LeBron's career. As I appreciate greatness, appreciate LeBron. And I think it's sometimes we make fun of it. But it is important to realize that you're watching one of the greatest players of all time. And you might not be able to in a few years. No one knows what's going to happen. But Larry Bird's career is defined by 3 consecutive MVPs and largely a back injury that shortened his career. If Larry Bird played now, he would have a much different looking career. But those 3 MVPs, when he was at his peak, kind of defined his career. So what part of me, when I look at Giannis, if he could win 3 in 4 years, I think that matters. And I know we think we're going to have Giannis for another 15 years, 18 years playing at this high level, but maybe we don't. It's not like that's I don't want to go down the negative road, but I think we should seize the day and appreciate Giannis versus having a long view of Giannis and saying, like, well, we got plenty of years to give Giannis the MVP. This is Embiid because of the degree of difficulty. That's the issue I have. I feel like Giannis is being overlooked because he's so great and it feels like it comes so easy to him, and the Bucks haven't had that much drama that he's getting shortchanged in this.
Well, look, I agree that he shouldn't be punished because things are running smoothly. And to your point, we have seen guys win MVPs with things. Michael Jordan won it when things went smoothly in Chicago. LeBron won it twice in Miami when obviously he had great teammates and all that. So it's not that you can't win in that situation, Wiles, but I'd say you have to be obviously head and shoulders above everybody else. And not just as the best player, but that you had the best year by far. While I agree that Giannis is a better player than Embiid, I would say this season, the seasons are very comparable. I mean, we know the statistics are almost identical. Yeah. And while everybody's looking at the game the other night where Giannis had 40, the game-winning block, we could just go back a couple months to when they met before, and Embiid had 42 and led Philadelphia to the victory over Milwaukee. So I just think the seasons are so close, as Nick has said, that other factors do start to weigh in. It's like, wow, as far as the individual play and dominance, they pretty much been the same. Now, what are other factors were in play? And that's where the Ben Simmons issue comes in.
I don't think anyone would be disappointed.